Todo el mundo.
Another.
Hello, I'm Nipper Reed.
And I'm Phil Wolf.
So, settle down, have a nice cup of tea, and enjoy the Venomous Exchange Radio podcast.
Crumpets, Nipper. I want the crumpets.
Well, as you've been such an extraordinarily good boy.
You want to start?
You want me to start? You can start.
Your voice is prettier.
You start.
All right. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, myself, Mr. Phil Wolf, is joined tonight, as always, by the very beautiful Mr. Nipper Reed for the Venom Exchange Radio, episode number 5. What's going on, Nipper?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Not too bad at all. Very excited for tonight's guest because I've got shed loads of questions for him because we have very, very similar collections. And I think we know quite a lot of the same people, maybe people in Europe that we share friendships with. So looking forward to it.
Excellent. So without further ado, we would like to introduce Mr. Matt McDowell of Arboreal Obscurities.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. I haven't been on this show before, but it's good to be back with you, Phil, on another show, just talking about this stuff again.
I love it. You know, Nipper and I, we compiled a list of people that we wanted to go into, and it's tough because you want to bring your friends in, but then you also want to bring in the people that you've never had on before or have never been on before, academics or field biologists or whatever. And I was like, man, the fact that Nipper is so Boiga intense, I got to get Matt on. We got to get Matt on. So
yeah, that sounds like my guy.
Yeah, 100%.
So for those of you who are unfamiliar with Arboreal Obscurities, you want to fill them in on what's going
on? Yeah, sure. We are, when I say we, the company is run by myself and my girlfriend, Ali Matosian, and we primarily focus on arboreal snakes and species that are a little bit more obscure and misunderstood or even overlooked or miseducated on. And we try to create more focus around properly educating those species, creating environments for them to thrive in captivity and further preserve those species. It's a lot of rear-fanged venomous stuff. So for people that are listening that know what that is, it's lots of Boiga. And then we also do work pretty closely with scrub pythons and then a few other just weird little one-off species as well.
Very cool, man. Very cool. So how do you just decide one day I'm going to do Boiga, or better yet, I'm going to do Arboreal Obscurities, literally?
I was born a weirdo, I guess. I don't know. When I was coming into like actually keeping snakes, you know how the hobby, especially these days, I came into it later. I was never really in a place in life where I got to keep reptiles growing up. I had to like put myself around them. I didn't get to bring them home and just be around them. So I think once I finally had the freedom to really dive into the hobby for myself, it's like a kid in a candy store, right? You walk into a really nice reptile shop and you don't know where to start. And I think like most people, everybody starts going onto YouTube and trying to figure out what the best stuff to start with is. For me, I kind of grew up that kid that was trying to pick up everything in the wild because I couldn't have it at home. And so I wanted a little bit more of a challenge than the beginner species. I knew that I was willing to put the work into doing my own research and my own homework. And I didn't need, just someone telling me how to do it. So I did some looking around. I was working in a shop in Arizona and we got in some mangrove snakes. And I think from that point on, I've always called them like the Cadillac of colubrids. They did something for me. And yeah, ever since, like everything. So mangroves from the very beginning were what got me. And then I got some nigroceps, some black-headed cat snakes, and the bright red on them, I think really is what sold me. And then I haven't been able to let go of them since. They're just really cool snakes.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. Forgive me, but Is there a big following for Boiga in the States? It's in the UK and in Europe. You couldn't give them away a few, like 10 years ago, nobody was interested. And now there is such a movement. They're so on trend. I mean, prices are going up and up and up, but there's such a community for them, which is excellent. I just wondered if it was the same in the States.
It actually is. I guess the reason I said I was like a weirdo when I picked them was because when I got that first mangrove and those first blackheads, nobody wanted them. I got them because they came into the shop. Nobody looked twice at them. They sat for a while. I was in charge of taking care of them. I loved them. And yeah, no, I kind of picked them because nobody else wanted to work with them. And I was already fascinated by them. And that was probably 4 or 5 years ago. That was like you said, you couldn't give them away. They were $100 in a pet shop. And now there's a huge following for them, which I guess if you talk to certain people in the industry or the hobby, they will tell you that it's frustrating when you see that kind of explosion in popularity because everybody's kind of grabbing at them left and right. I kind of see it the opposite. I am happy that it's had that increase. I absolutely do not mind everybody wanting to grab hold of them. I think that more people keeping them and working with them is only going to better the preservation of those animals. But I think that the most important part now for people like yourself and myself and other guys who've been keeping them for a while is we need to start sharing the real, most accurate, proper education for these people who are bringing them home. Let them know the reality of, there's lots of videos that say this stuff's harmless, and people are different and species are different and they're not harmless, and there's a lot to teach still. So I think that's the part that I'm excited about.
Yeah, I completely get that. Now, sorry, Phil, I'm just going to go into geek out mode.
Do it, baby. Do it.
You just sit in the corner and look at your other Venomous stuff.
Just look pretty.
So come on,
go for it. Go for gold.
So come on then. I just want to know, what are you keeping?
Right now we're keeping. Got Nigroceps. If we just want to know species, Boiga Nigroceps, Boiga Cynodon.
Let's go through them one by one. So the Nigroceps.
Yes.
How are you finding? I breed. Have you bred Nigroceps?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Yeah, I've bred Nigroceps. It's one of my favorite Boiga. I think it's really, really underrated.
Mm-hmm.
But as you said before, they're magnificent animals. Where are yours from? Do you know which locality yours are?
Yeah, most all of my stuff is Malaysian. There's a lot of variability in it. And I don't know if you've been familiar with this theory or not. I was talking with Dan Malary months back, and I had some new Nigroceps come in that I wasn't quite sure if they had come in from like an Indonesian shipment or a Malaysian shipment. They were kind of just randomly fell in front of me. And so I had kind of went to pick his brain, and he had told me, and I did not know this until more recently, but according to him, the Malaysian variety are where all of your variability comes from. Okay. And then in Indonesia, everything is a uniform, almost like deep blood red color. But it's according to him, your Malaysian stuff that is everything from like an olive green and grays to those brown reds to like cherry red.
Yeah, and I think the head color is different as well.
Yeah, definitely.
For the Indo ones, the head color is really, really distinct. Whereas for some of the Malaysian ones, the head colors are maybe not quite as distinct.
It can be kind of a green or kind of a blue and not quite that rich black color.
That's 100%.
Let me chime in real quick on the locality stuff. So correct me if I'm wrong, but they're coming from southern Thai through Malaysia, Singapore, and then they skip Sumatra and they go straight to Java? Or is there it's all of Western Indo?
It's hard to say, right? So the reason that it's hard to say is because what the hobby wants is what a lot of these guys who are collecting for us are looking for. So it could be a really nice red color, and most of what comes in is red. It's actually like tougher to find something that's that olive green or like gray kind of hue. I personally think that it's a lot wider spread than we think that it is. I used to think that it was just basically Javan and Malaysian stuff that was coming in, and you weren't getting anything out of Indonesia. The last time I spoke with Dan as well, he was saying that it's been a while since really anything on the Nigroceps front has come out of actual like Indonesia. So I'm going to guess that anything we are getting is coming out of small Thailand ranges or Malaysia. But I don't know, if I'm being perfectly honest. I don't do a lot of importing with them. More so just kind of find what I've been able to find in the States and then worked with generations of those animals.
Yeah,
I wish I knew more about that.
Yeah, and I think we all suffer as well. Particularly, it's like the green tree python syndrome. Certain localities carry more weight, so people will label them up as a locality where they may have been found somewhere completely different.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I've always kind of thought that the people that you do see post that they have Indonesian stuff very well could have been collected in Malaysian ranges and then just shipped out of Indonesia because
100%.
of, yeah, I agree with that.
So, when I bred mine, and I found the babies quite hard to get feeding. Did you have to experience that, or?
So that's interesting that you say that, because, and I guess here's it could be another conversation that you and I could definitely have on the side, but for me, Nigroceps have been the easiest species for me to work with. I have two. What do I have? I have two sitting beside me here, and I have two sitting beside me to my left that are both from different clutches, but both from this year. And all four of them are eating full pinkies, frozen thawed, off of tongs, and have been since the first or second meal ever offered. Wow. So for whatever reason, mine have been very robust and easy to get started. It's been a blessing. My Cynodon have been actually what's tougher. I have Cynodon that are very close to the year mark and are still, they take assist fed meals very, very easily, but they are still taking assist fed meals. So really weird how different the two have been.
Okay. So you've got Cynodon. Are they from captive bred stock? Are they wild caught, or?
No. So yes and both. I have my main pair actually came from a buddy of mine named Aaron Solano in California. And they were a breeding pair of his that he had had for a while. And then I don't know why, for whatever reason, I had some stuff that he was interested in getting into, and he decided to let them go to me. I've had them ever since. And those two were imports. And they're Thailand, like cow sock range imports. And then we've got two others that came from, I'm going to completely forget where they came from, but they were captive bred animals. They're about close to 4 years old now. Jordan Russell produced them, actually. And so, again, yeah, those were raised up.
Another really underrated species. Everybody wants mangroves, but they're huge. The color and pattern is just outstanding, and they're really robust snakes. The adults, if they're wild caught, once they're acclimatized, they seem to do really, really well.
They seem to be, I will say that Cynodon and Nigroceps, both of them seem to be the easiest to acclimate if you are going to go with an imported adult specimen, or even 100%. Some of the smaller stuff.
100%. So what else have we got on the list?
So we did Nigroceps, we got the Cynodon. I just picked up a group of Gemicincta 100% het albinos. So that should be hopefully a cool future project.
Very
cool.
And
then
that is unusual.
We've got the Thai Cynodon. I also have some Bohol Philippine Cynodon.
Wow.
And then we've got some Melanota.
We really struggle to get Filipino stuff in Europe. It's hard to come by.
Now, the Philippines that I got actually came through Europe. They were from a Russian breeder, and then they were passed through Calubra. And they were sent to Germany, and then from Germany to Canada, and then from Canada to here. So it was a process, but
yeah, 100%.
And this year was the first year I actually saw them for sale anywhere, because as you know, the Philippines, you can't get anything from the Philippines.
No,
unless you're zoo to zoo kind of.
I should be careful what I say. I had some potential animals coming just before COVID. Unfortunately, the person I was dealing with, I think, ended up getting arrested in the Philippines. So,
Oh, bummer.
yeah, clearly the permits that he said he had were not legit.
Not quite legal.
Not quite legal.
That's
I
incredible.
feel like that happens a bit.
Yeah, 100%. But there's so
And that's why we have divergence that are adults already, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
They are incredible. I don't know what the prices are like in the States for divergence. They are sinister in Europe.
You know, it's crazy. In the last couple of years, they've gone from about $2,500 to about $800, $900. So they've reached an affordable price, but that's still a lot of money for a captive animal that is going through a lot of stress before you get it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what that is in sterling. Phil, what's $900 in sterling?
Stand by, I'll convert it.
Okay. Just in Europe, to get an adult diversions, you're not going to get one under £1,500, really. So
it's expensive. It's a used car.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So 1,500 sterling is exactly today $2,028.
Oh, there you
yeah.
are.
Okay.
Yeah. They seem to be bred quite frequently, and they seem to be quite a few available, but the prices just don't seem to be going down at all.
And you know what? For me personally, if I'm going to spend that kind of money, I understand they're the blue mangrove and they've got that pretty blue color to them. But if I'm going to spend the money on a species of Boiga that looks really, really cool, it's probably going to be one that I'm going to have a little more enjoyment interacting with or keeping. That's one thing that I wanted to say at the beginning when we were talking about kind of like favorite species. Nothing against the Dendrophylla complex, but you see a lot of mangroves that people bring home as pets, and everyone's looking for mangroves. And I don't know if you've experienced the same thing, but for me, that is probably the least fun and most difficult of all the Boiga I've kept to actually interact with, take care of.
100%.
They're not the good one to start with.
No, they normally come in absolute shit order.
Mm-hmm.
They're normally, terribly dehydrated and stressed. If you do get them going, they never seem to calm down. Even in the most well-planted Viv,
Mm-hmm.
they're always cage defensive. They're always essed up. They're always gaping mouths. They never seem to just chill. Whereas other species, not that I would, but other species, calm as anything. You could just put your hand in and lift them straight out. It's
sure. I mean, I don't want to set a bad example. I will say that like I really do pay very, very close attention to my animals. I revolve my life around specifically Boiga as far as like what I do with my free time. And I know how to read all of my animals really well. So I'll say like with Nigroceps or with Cynodon, even with my Cyanea and other stuff, I can definitely reach right in, lift a hide, pull one or two or three of them out if they're, it's the big tank or whatever, and you throw them up over a shoulder, and I can interact with them like they are a corn snake or a rat snake. But I have never trusted doing that with any dendro, especially not Melanota, and I never would. There's certain species you can get a little bit more out of, a little more tolerant or a little more trusting for whatever reason. And then there are certain species that if you've been doing it for 20 years, you still probably shouldn't get that relaxed with it,
I completely agree. I mean, everybody wants a mangrove snake because Phil and I had this conversation before. When you're small and you're getting your first book of snakes, it's normally a mangrove snake that's on the cover of that book.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
TFH
always, yeah. And I think that imprints on you. And I mean, I've got them. I think they're great, but I completely get what you're saying. They shouldn't be what people consider a beginner Boiga.
Right. Right. Yeah, I love mine, but they're not. If I want to just hang out with a Boiga or take one out and remind myself why I have them, it's not going to be one of my Melanota. It's going to be a Nigroceps or a Cynodon.
100%. Do you have any of the smaller species?
You talking like Trigonata, Drapezii, Benku stuff?
Yeah.
I was working with some Javan trapezii that I picked up just before we moved from Arizona to Virginia. We moved our whole collection with us, and it was across the entire US. So it was really stressful. And we didn't lose any animals. We did everything we could, and it was all safe. However, well, I shouldn't say we didn't lose any animals. We lost a couple animals, but nothing we had already had. The small group of Trapezii that we had picked up just before the move got eating and everything. We gave them about a month. Fingers crossed, that they'd make the move. They were a local pickup, so we just didn't want to pass up on them. And it seems like they didn't. They just overstressed and didn't make the move.
Yeah.
I do like some of the smaller species. I don't work with many of them. The smallest are probably the Cyanea and the Nigroceps and the Gemicincta.
Yeah, I used to have a Trigonata, stunning little thing, absolute mimic of saw scale vipers. It, sometimes you look in the Viv and you do a double take because you think, is that a saw scale viper in there? No, it's a Trigonata.
Those little like grays and pattern that they've got,
100%. I mean, I can see why they get so much trouble from locals. If you saw that in a half light, crawling around in your house or whatever, it looks so much like Ekis. It's not true.
It doesn't help that they've got one of the more diamond shaped heads of 100%. Most of the Boiga, and especially as babies.
Yeah. So,
the arboreal egg eater.
Yeah.
Very much. Yeah, very much.
Unintended.
Yeah. Hey, that's a question for you, Nipper. Have you, speaking of eggs, nobody really ever talks about really like diets of Boiga and stuff and other things that like they should be eating. And I seem to find myself feeding my Cynodon, not really the Nigroceps, but my Cynodon, my Nigroceps, some of my bigger Boiga eggs lately.
Oh, really? And that's cool.
And the interesting part is like they've never eaten them. And I started just putting them in there and puncturing a hole in them with like a safety pin just in the top. So a little of that like albumin or fluid could leak out on the egg. And just leaving them overnight, and now they've all been transferring over to eggs. Wow. And so with them being like kind of nest raiders or designed to do so, I was just curious if yours have ever eaten eggs or if you've tried.
I've never tried eggs. I feed almost exclusively birds.
Oh, okay.
Very, very rarely. And oftentimes, particularly like the Nigroceps, won't touch mammal stuff, but birds, they will smash it. And again, with the mangroves, totally all birds, either quail or day-old chicks or something like that. And they'll eat multiple chicks. You put a mouse or a large rat or a small rat in there or something like that, not interested whatsoever.
I have a same experience there.
Yeah, I have used lizards for some of the smaller species.
Sure.
Like the Trigonata, for example, would not eat anything else but lizards.
That makes sense.
And for juveniles, I use lizards sometimes to get them started. But predominantly, I feed birds. But now I'm going to try. Are you using just chicken eggs or quail eggs?
So with adult Cynodon or with my big Melanota, they can do a chicken egg, no problem. With the Nigroceps, quail eggs, just 2 or 3 quail eggs, throw it in there in a little group in like a nest or something, and leave them overnight, and they are usually gone in the morning.
That's fantastic. And then I presume they're regurgitating the shell later on. Are you finding little?
So get this, they do not regurgitate the shell, and I'll have to get your contact after this so I can send you some videos. 100%. You'll find them really interesting. Sure. But they will they don't even break the egg. They'll open up around it. And I have come to notice that I think the rear fang, those back teeth, have a second role in the diet. Whereas if it's not chewing and feeding venom into the prey item, it's actually working like how ice climbers use like a nail or like hooks in their shoes and then pull them. So it's working like an anchor. I've noticed that they'll get their bottom jaw opened up around it, and they'll try to get a good spot. And then what they'll do is they'll take that one side of the top of their mouth and they'll anchor those teeth into the egg without breaking it. And they'll use that as a way to pull that weird shape of an egg further into like their gullet, and then they'll take it all the way down, and you'll see just a huge egg all the way down through the belly, and they'll eat 3 or 4 of them. So it's hilarious that they look like a piece of candy or something, but they've got all these little eggs in them, and one at a time they'll digest the egg. It'll break inside the belly, and then they'll poop out the shells.
I cannot wait to try this.
It's super strange, but it's really interesting.
I'm definitely going to try that.
When I had my big Cynodon, we had happened to had Terry Burwell on the show on THP, and we were talking about Cynodon because I just gotten one, and he was a fresh import, and he was full of worms and whatnot, and we took care of him and got him eating chicks and everything else. But Terry was like, "Yeah, man, I just give him chicken eggs," and I was like, "What?" And then he's like, "Yeah, just get a deli cup, put some chicken eggs in there, just make sure they're not cold from the refrigerator, and just sit back and see if he eats them." And I saw the climber's ice picks.
It's weird, isn't it? But it's so interesting.
Cool. It's so cool.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to try that. That's amazing.
Yeah, the egg thing's really nice. And if you're ever struggling with like getting a fresh import nigroceps, or something that's around that juvenile quail egg size going, and it's not taking chicks or birds or eggs or rodents, chicken hearts. Just since we're on the topic of food items, you can buy like a bucket of chicken hearts, basically like catfish food, right? And you could feed them chicken hearts, and that's like a fantastic protein food item for them.
I've done that for the false water cobra. Loved offal. It was really weird. Any offal, it would eat whole hearts, pig's livers, anything. Just absolutely go mad for it. So yeah, I'll give that a go as well. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, all fun stuff to try.
That's really cool. Have you ever kept flavicens?
No, I've never actually come across them to try to keep them, but that is a cool species.
It's really weird. There's quite an obvious sexual dimorphism in them. So,
is there?
Yeah, they're easy to visually sex, in my humble opinion. I mean, somebody may tell me I'm wrong, but the males are, you've seen them, the beautiful tan color with the bars, and the females are almost white with the bars. I've never seen any male
very interesting
light colors. And again, they're very similar to man crabs. In all the ones I've had, never calm down. They're quite small, obviously. I mean, I think mine maxed out at probably 3.5 foot, something like that. But always aggressive.
Interesting.
Yeah, but a really cool species. If you can get some, I highly recommend them.
Now, do they spend more of their time on like under the leaf litter and stuff, or are they actually primarily arboreal?
I had them set up I had 2 pairs. I had them set up in the longest Exoterra, which I think is that 3 foot, the longest Exoterra.
Okay,
3 foot, and then the high one, really densely planted. And I had UV and UV tube for UVB, and then a heat emitter. And that they would weirdly, which I thought was weird, they would hide on the ground under bark or coconut shells or whatever, because although they're quite a long snake, they will find a space that's tiny. Like ridiculously small. But as soon as the lights clicked on, even though they're nocturnal, they would come out and then they would go up and sit in the foliage.
They do a little bit of basking,
and then just go back in.
Okay, very interesting.
It's a really cool species. If you can get hold of them, I mean, I think they're fairly easy to get hold of. They're in the UK, they're very easy to get hold of. Probably the easiest captive bred boiga to get hold of in the UK.
Wow, no kidding.
Yeah, and I think that's because
very interesting.
Yeah, we've got some prominent breeders that I think probably in the early 2000s we had a load of wild caught stuff come in.
Now, are you anywhere near Mark King or Chris?
I was just going to say, Mark King. That's where I got 2 of my flavicens from. Okay. He's a big breeder in the UK. He's got a great
and a very nice guy too. He makes some really 100%. Nice stuff.
Yeah, he's a good lad. Are you talking about Chris Lagvard?
Yes.
Yeah, he's in Holland, But
Okay.
I know Chris. I see him at the shows, and his collection is phenomenal.
He's an amazing breeder as well. He is
legitimately breathtaking Boiga keeper.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
As much as I commend both of you, because I don't have any Boiga anymore, but he is like Mr. Boiga.
Oh, 100%.
Chris, he has the recipe. Where if there's a secret recipe to breeding everything Boiga, he's got it.
Yeah,
he does a lot.
And he's so down to earth. He's such a nice guy as well, which
right.
You know, some people, when they're that successful and well known for keeping a certain species, can be a little bit up themselves.
You know how this hobby can be.
Yeah, look at me. But no, Chris is so down to earth. But his collection is phenomenal, and such. What's the word? It's such a tidy collection. It's so nicely. It's all nicely looked after. It's brilliant. But he's got some cracking species. Yeah, he's doing very, very well. So, do you have any the other splits from Boiga? Have you got any blanding eye or anything like that?
Okay, so like the toxies and stuff. I would like to get some blandings or some pulves. I wouldn't say I have any of the splits from Boiga. It's pretty much all Boiga or the scrubs. I guess the weird other little obscure stuff that we have are like neotropical puffing snakes, the Brinonax postulinotus, and then some venomous stuff, I guess. The other weird arboreals are like the Wagler's vipers and stuff.
Ah, we'll come to that in a minute. Do you not keep telescopus at all?
I don't. No.
I'm really surprised.
So I will say this. I do get asked a lot if I have like blandings or any of the telescopus stuff, and basically anything else that's rear fanged. And I think the reason that I can say no to it, I've worked in a couple shops, and the one that like I really blossomed from, I guess, was that shop I was talking about in Arizona, and that's owned by a guy named Christian Coletta. It's called Predators Reptile Center. If you ever are in Arizona and you want like a really diverse shop, that's a really great place to go.
Fingers crossed. I should be in Arizona in June because I'm going rattlesnake hunting.
Beautiful. I actually might be visiting around that time. That's close to my birthday. So yeah, we'll have to stay in touch on that.
100%. Yeah. And
I have lots of friends out there. If you need people to go with you, Herpin.
Oh, we've got quite a good makeup for the trip. We've got obviously Eric Burke, Dr. Julander, and Bobby Stone is coming as well.
Beautiful. Are you guys meeting up with anyone in Arizona as like your guide?
I say Rob Stone's organising the trip, so
okay.
He's been there a fair few times before, and I think there is a local guy that's joining us as well. So
cool.
I'm absolutely stoked for it. I was supposed to go last October, but unfortunately, COVID.
Right.
The states shut down, and they killed it. Like they saw some fantastic stuff.
That's a bummer to miss that one, huh?
Yeah, including my number one wanted species to see in the wild in the States, which is Willardi.
Cool.
Yeah, they got a few of those, but they got some nice clouds and some Cerberus and stuff like that. So they absolutely nailed it. So hopefully we'll be successful.
Cerberus can be a little bit tricky to find that time of year too. They're like a weird, cooler weather, forested rattlesnake for what Arizona gets.
Yeah, so we shall see. But let's get back to the fact that you're not.
Yeah, sorry. Anyways,
you're not keeping telescopus.
So the reason I just never brought that stuff home is I got years that I'm very grateful for, but years working in that shop with such a large variety of different reptiles and snakes, and I think I got to work with telescopus and like blandings and stuff when nobody cared still. They were all over the place
too.
Yeah, they came in for $50 on an import or whatever, and all the weird stuff like that, little wolf snakes and just random little colubrids. But no, I worked with them for quite a while, and then I don't know, I never brought them home. I guess I always got my fix of what I got to do at work with them and what I got to learn and interact with was enough for me. So I just hadn't ever brought them home and just used any of that extra space or money or time to add more Boiga. But
Yeah.
I definitely love them. If I were going to pick anything else to add outside of Boiga, it would be some Telescopus or some Toxicodryas.
100%. I think Boiga, because of the mangroves, has become so on point, so trendy with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But Telescopus seems to have been really left behind, and some of the species are absolutely stunning.
I know.
But you know what? The Malagasy stuff has been getting popular for whatever reason all of a sudden, like the golds and the silvers.
I've got golds and silvers.
And those are beautiful. Well. Those are underrated.
They are, if you're looking for a beginner's, if there is such a thing, if you're looking for a beginner's rear fang snake, 100% the Malagasy cat-eyed snake.
Yeah, I agree.
It's one of those snakes you have to hit with a hammer to kill it. I mean, they're so tough.
Mm-hmm.
They always feed. They're really robust snakes, and super interesting. They're really, really nice.
Right.
I've got two guys in my town that I grew up with, like literally grew up with, and they both breed Malagasy cats.
That's cool.
I'm 99% sure it's all silver, but every year they get at least both of them get 2 or 3 clutches, and they sell out like this. So
yeah, it seems like they sell well, they breed well, they get started well. Everyone's always talking about how theirs feeds so well right out of the egg, and like
100%,
you can't say that a lot. You can't even say that with king snakes a lot of the time.
Yeah,
I've got 2 species. I've got a chum in the UK, Roger, and he is the sort of equivalent to Chris when it comes to Malagasy cat snakes. His collection is phenomenal. So the other thing he breeds, which I was going to ask you about, he ever kept herald snakes? So another great rear fang.
I was just going to mention heralds when you were talking about Malagasys being like a really good kind of more bluff, if anything. You don't really have to worry about them much. Heralds are kind of right there as well.
Absolutely stunning looking snakes. Not that I would, recommend it, but sort of snake you could keep in a shoebox under your bed and it's going to be fine.
Absolutely.
Brilliant sort of things. Yeah.
And they got that big giant like parrot snake mouth. That their head gets real flat and their mouth gets real wide. I mean, they're just cool snakes.
That's cool. And the different color variations as well for the different localities. I love shit like that. So that's very cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, heralds are a really neat one.
That's grand. So you said you've got wagglers as well.
Yes. Yeah, I've got one female. We plan to get a little bit more into it, but if you've kept import arboreal vipers and stuff before, how things can go. Wagglers can be a little bit more of a finicky species.
I think it's one of my favorite arboreal pit vipers. I think they're absolutely stunning.
Completely agree. And once they do click on, they're a great snake.
The thing for me is I've never kept them because I don't know anybody that's ever had success with them long term.
Yeah, we've had her for maybe 6 months now, and she's doing great. But I won't say anything until we've had her for a couple of years.
Yeah, I think as things are moving forward with the hobby in terms of the equipment that we can use, now we can have proper full spectrum lighting and proper UV and UVA, UVB. I think the harder to keep snakes like the Tropidolamus will be much more prevalent in the hobby. But I think in the past, they just never seem to do well. Can you remember, have you ever seen, it might be different in the States, but I cannot ever remember seeing captive bred wagglers.
No. I've never seen captive bred wagglers.
I only know one guy, and he bought long-term captive Sumatrans from someone. He's actually on the other side of Florida. And this is the second year in a row. He did it in 2021, and now, well, I guess it would still be 2021. But yeah, this is his second go-around with babies. All his babies he's holding back because he wants to make sure that he's doing everything correctly to keep it going, just because we've all failed so many times with that genus. And it's so difficult.
It's a shame because I think they will make a fantastic large arboreal display animal. I mean,
Yeah.
if they were the same as white lips, I'd have loads of them because I think they're absolutely stunning. But
well, and let's talk about how good of like a tolerant viper they are. I mean, I don't think I've ever met a species that's so tolerant with riding a hook or being tailed or just interaction, you know, like now I would never do this, but she's a snake where I could reach straight back to the water dish in the back corner with her sitting on a perch and I know she's not going to strike at me. She's that mellow, which is kind of crazy for a viper. Yeah. Almost too mellow.
Yeah.
Like you almost get complacent with how calm she is.
Yeah.
Well, I also think that it's also a testament to our herper community in this day and age, because if you looked back 10 years ago at people that were going to try and keep wags, they would try and keep them like Tremerceros. But I feel like now the people that are keeping wags in whatever capacity, they're treating them more like emerald tree boas, where they're leaving them alone. They've realized that the metabolism is much slower than everything else in the jungle. So they're only feeding them every 10 days, 2 weeks, whatever it is. They're not shoving rats down their throat. They're offering other prey items, lizards, birds, what have you. So I feel like our way of thinking with them in that emerald tree boa way is going to help the captive success of them.
100%. I mean, feeding, something to note on that I've noticed with mine is they have better digestion if you feed them either a prey item that has no hair on it yet, like a large pinky rat if it's a smaller one, or things like birds. They digest the feathers or the skin and everything just fine, but they do have a problem with that fur.
Yeah, I think the hobby has been so ingrained, and I think it's just I know I moan at people a lot. It's lazy keeping, isn't it? It's easy to go and buy a load of rats, and this is what snakes eat, so we'll just put a rat in there. But as you so rightly say, if a snake, over millions of years has evolved to digest feathers and not fur, it's not.
Or a lizard over a rat.
100%. But I do think there is a change in the hobby now where people are paying more attention to diet and supplements and lighting. I think we're moving forward now. I've really certainly in Europe.
And space. I think that's a big part too. You get better air clarity with space and better ventilation and more room to stretch and be active and digest and burn calories and all the stuff they need to be doing.
100%. And the
stimulating.
I think the bioactive movements helps as well. In terms of, back in the day, people would have just, literally had wet paper towel and a branch and then and stuck a snake in there. But now, we can never recreate. We're always looking at a little tiny snapshot of a habitat. We can't recreate a whole habitat with all the different microclimates, but at least there's an effort towards, that sort of naturalistic keeping.
Absolutely.
And away from just keeping snakes in trays now, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm looking at your Vivs behind you at the moment, so I can see.
I try to do a little bit with them. You can kind of see, like, even the little baby Vivs are kind of foamed or scaped or and then planted.
That's good. 100%. That's great. That's very cool.
So, I think that's very important, though.
What locality is your trope?
I'm sorry, say that again.
What locality is the Wagglers?
Oh, I'm going to blank that right now. She is here. I'm just going to show her to you. She's sitting back up in here right now. I don't know if you can see her.
Yeah, I can see her. Beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. If I'm being perfectly honest, this is the first time I have kept wagglers. And as you know, my girlfriend is the one who is the actual venomous enthusiast. Like, I have a lot more of the rear fang stuff. She worked for Phoenix Herpetological Sanctuary and has a lot more experience with the venomous stuff.
Cool.
So to be honest, if I'm being honest with myself, I probably wouldn't have some of the stuff that I do have right now if she weren't involved, just because it would probably be irresponsible, like the Bitus.
Yeah.
So talk us through the other venomous stuff you've got then.
Yeah.
So with Crotalus, I do have a lot of experience with growing up in Arizona. We've got a Crotalus Atrox. I've got Cerastes again, and then we've got the Wagglers, and then we have a Rhino Viper right now.
Oh my God. So,
It's
where
all
are you
Vipers.
based? Where are you based in the States?
I'm in Virginia now. So in Arizona, we weren't allowed to have anything that
That's what I was
wasn't
gonna say.
native.
Right. And what protocols are there for you to own something like, I mean, they're quite seriously venomous stuff, some of the things you've got. I mean, Rhino Vipers is not a great day out if you get bit.
Right.
So what is the legality for that? What do you have to do in your state?
In the state of Virginia, it's almost scary. We're one of those, like, if you will, like outlaw states where the danger is you're putting the danger in your own hands, and kind of whatever happens, which unfortunately, in my opinion, that's not something that's good for the hobby, because then if someone does get critically injured or something, there was no regulation to follow. As scary as it is to say, I was able to move from Arizona out here, and 2 weeks later buy a Rhino Viper with no kind of anything. I just had to pay for it. It's amazing. But so I especially do everything that I can to be safe and responsible with them, especially in a state where the laws are like that. But in Arizona, you had to have a zookeeper's permit, they did. It was very, very hard to obtain. You had to have property and proof that you were essentially opening a zoo to be able to get anything like that. So all we were able to keep were anything native Crotalus that wasn't protected. So no Willard Eye, none of the really cool stuff, but still 12 or so species that were on that list that we could keep.
That's fantastic. So in terms of your protocols for keeping venomous,
yes,
I have a building, and I have venomous, I have rear fang venomous, I have non-venomous, and I have geckos at the moment. And to keep myself on it, I treat everything, not the geckos, obviously, but I treat all the snakes as if they were venomous.
Okay.
Because otherwise,
you'll get complacent with your venomous.
I'm going to get complacent. I'm going to get tired. I just wondered if you did something similar. If you've got rear fanged, which are they're still venomous but maybe less severe, and you've also got some top end venomous stuff as well.
So I definitely do split it up. Instead of you have the smarter approach, in my opinion. Treat everything like it is venomous. I can't seem to bring myself to, as silly as it is, like use hooks with my Boiga for whatever reason. Call it a superstition or something, but I just feel like it's more harmful to them than helpful to me. They've got such frail, fragile like bones and bodies as it is that I don't know, something about being able to give them a softer cushion of like my hands or my arms and get them associated with like the warmth from my skin and everything works better for me in the long run, especially with interacting. But so I guess my rule of thumb is I don't cowboy up. I'll never post a photo of me free handling any of my actual hots, and I just hook everything. If it's venomous, it gets hooked. Every interaction is with a hook. Or two hooks, if need be. Sometimes the Rhino Viper can be a little crazy and it's a 2-hook situation. Sure, it could be tailed or it could be single hooked, but just to be safe, everything gets hooked or double hooked. And then if it's not something venomous, we just treat it like it's a python or something else. But that's also why we keep the venomous collection fairly small.
No, I mate, you're right. I think I've had a reasonably large venomous collection in the past, and I think a small venomous collection is a lot better than a big venomous collection, having done both. In terms of the joy of it, you don't want it to be a chore, but also, when you've got, 30 or 40 venomous snakes, it's a lot harder to. It's a lot, and it's a lot harder to maintain that, and it takes a lot more of your time because
it's a lot more dangerous.
It's a lot more dangerous. It's not like 30 or 40 king snakes where you can quickly dash in, grab a water bottle, and dash out again.
Right.
Each time you're opening that cage, it's like a pre-planned thing. If you've got 20
hook
cages,
it out, put it in a bucket, go in, do the business, then put it back.
so hence I'm thinning out, a lot of my venomous stuff, the arboreals and stuff like that, the atheris and things like that. And I'm just going to stick with rattlesnakes, I think, long
Sure.
term.
Yeah.
I'll still keep the rear fang stuff because I think I find that so interesting.
And you can manage that, like you said, with your king snakes. If you have to, you can manage that.
100%. I wonder why you chose the species you did to have the venomous species. It's quite...
both, if I'm being perfect, so the croats are just a love for back home. I'll always love Crotalis. The Western Diamondback, iconic to Arizona. And then I've actually Cerastes, the Crotalis cerastes circlebombus, the little guys, they're the little sidewinders. Those were the first snake I ever actually reproduced. And I bred those back in Arizona. And so those will have a special place in my heart forever. So I'll always try to keep Cerastes.
They're very, very high on my want list at the moment.
They're amazing snakes as well.
Yeah, I'm waiting for there's an International Snake Day show every October in Europe, and you can get pretty much anything there. And
they're basically pygmies with really good attitudes for being a pygmy rattlesnake.
Yeah, 100%. So, but I know what I'm like. If I'll get them, and I will want every subspecies.
Yeah,
and then certain localities, but I will definitely have them. I think it's one of my favorites.
I believe there's only 3 though, at least, right?
There's
3 Crotalis cerastes.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And they all stay fairly small. But yeah, those in a 5-foot tank with sculpted tank would just be insane with really decent lighting and and they're great communal snakes. Rattlesnakes are fantastic communal. So a really cool setup with some space and a couple of them is a really cool bit to have in your house. I keep my rattlesnakes together, either pairs or trios. I don't have some singly, and touch wood, I've never had any problem with that. They've always,
I totally believe that.
Happily coexisted. I'm kind of hoping we see some sidewinders in Arizona. That would be on that trip.
I'll be like disappointed if you guys don't. If you're going to run into anything in Arizona, it's Atrox and Cerastes.
Either one of those, I will lose my shit. Sure. I mean, I have this conversation with Phil all the time. I'm very lucky that I've hurt around the world. For some reason, I've not done the States.
No,
but that's my favorite kind of area for stuff that I keep. It's really, maybe it's because I haven't been there. I don't know. So yeah, anything I see that most people will just be yawning at, oh yeah, it's another pygmy rattlesnake, I will lose my shit 100%.
Oh, it's funny you say that because I don't think there's a reptile keeper alive that doesn't look up to or admire Steve Irwin a little bit. And everybody wants stuff from Australia. We drool over things like Olympellis and Parentes and all kinds of really, really cool animals. And I remember an interview, really old interview with Steve Irwin, where he had actually said that his favorite place on the entire planet to go herping and to find reptiles was Arizona. And it's so funny because it's so different from Australia. And for him, there are no vipers in Australia, and Arizona's covered in rattlesnakes. There's no rattlesnakes out where he was. So
it's
it is a cool place.
I cannot wait. I mean, and some of the other little things, also rear fang. You get lion snakes there, don't you?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we do.
Yeah,
that's a really cool snake too.
I can't understand. Well, it's possibly because I think they're lizard feeders only, aren't they?
Yes. If you can get them acclimated to rodents, all the power to you, but they're a lizard feeder.
Because I'm surprised, to me, that is just a US Boiga.
That's what they are. Absolutely what they are.
I'm surprised they're not a more popular choice in the hobby.
What they're like is they're actually like a big telescopus.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Kind of that more like flatty, shovelly head. Still the big cat eyes though, and not quite as arboreal. They're like a semi-arboreal.
Okay, yeah, that's on my list of things to see. Anything I see out there is going to be amazing. Cologne-
I'll send you a list of some roads and places to go out night cruising that you can bounce
Oh.
against your buddies when you're out there.
Yeah, 100%.
For liars and Cerastes.
Yeah,
That'll be good. That'll be real.
I was chatting to Eric, and he's been moaning the fact that he can't get to Australia, as you've just said. You know, everybody wants to go to Australia, and then I googled the herp list for Pennsylvania, and it's amazing.
Yeah,
it's not somewhere I even considered herping, and yet when you read the list of things that are in Pennsylvania, you know, from hellbenders to timber rattlesnakes and cotton, it's just phenomenal.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I think
they have milk snakes and corn snakes and Nerodia.
They got 25 species of salamander there.
Mm-hmm.
That's just phenomenal.
We're very close to Pennsylvania, and that was a big. When we moved out here, it was Arizona has a huge herp list, but it's completely opposite stuff than what's out here. So it was cool to look at, you know, an equally as large list, but way different animals.
Do you, forgive my ignorance, do you get timbers in Virginia?
We do. They are protected, but we do get them out here.
Cool.
Timbers and
What's the squeaking?
Oh, I'm sorry. That
it's been going. It's been going for a while, and then it just got louder and louder and louder. And I was like, "Oh man, we got to pause."
I'm going for a tortoise. It's a tortoise in a vehicle.
You're close. I'll give you one more guess.
Blue tongue skink.
Oh, close. It's a monitor lizard.
Yeah.
It's just one of my my pet Savannah, and she's come on. She's scratching at her plexi because she sees me sitting here, and I don't hear it, and probably tone it out.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I'm gonna
it'll be done now.
I'll cut it up earlier so like this isn't in there, but for a while it was like yeah.
I'm glad you said something. I wouldn't have noticed.
Because I know I'm gonna get text messages. People like, "What the hell happened to Matt's episode?" So.
Nope, that's all. That's being caused by this.
Oh,
it is a blue tongue.
Yeah, it is a blue. Yeah,
it is a blue tongue. That's Taliqua.
I'm a smart lizard.
See, I thought it was a dog like grinding on the corner of a rubber toy.
Oh,
that's what it sounded like on my end. But
yeah, normally that would drive me nuts. I probably just don't hear it because the headphones.
Yeah. So
sorry, where were we?
I was just fangirling about herp in Arizona, to be perfectly honest. So how have you got your sidewinders set up? Have you got
sand, rocks, and a basking spot, really. As far as simplicity goes, so right now I just have some captive bred little ones. So they have an acrylic setup with a heat pad, some sand, and then there's like a little rubber aloe plant. It's like in the back corner. And then a little rock for them to be able to sit or brush against, and a water dish. And yeah, that's about it.
That's cool. And what you're feeding those rodents, I presume, not lizards?
Yes, rodents. And that's another one that may be tricky to get started because they will eat lizards in the wild. They do switch to mice as well. When I had a litter of 10 babies, like 7 of them took mice right away. Didn't even have to be live, just had to be warm and thawed. So they will pretty willingly take them, but there definitely were a couple that were pickier.
Oh, it's great. I cannot wait to get some. It's very high.
I think you'll like them a lot.
Yeah, I've got a space mapped out for pairs of clouds, pairs of leps, and Cerastes.
Those are all very cool.
Yeah, I cannot wait. It's just trying to get up. I don't know. I don't think the COVID lockdown was as quite as robust in the States as it has been in Europe. But I cannot wait to start getting back to shows and being able to buy stuff again, because we've had nearly 2 years of no shows and it's been quite grim.
Yeah. Wow. See, out here, they're still trying to run shows. They're trying to regulate them.
Yeah, we had our first international show, first European show was December.
Okay.
Just gone. That was the first show I'd been to for 18 months.
That's crazy.
It's mad. I spent so much money. It was ridiculous. But unfortunately, that show, they didn't have a Venomous license, so there was no Venomous there. But I bought loads of Australian geckos and things like that.
Very
But
cool.
but the Houghton show, that's the International Snake Day, has a phenomenal array of Venomous for sale. I mean, just incredible, absolutely incredible.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but did you used to keep cobras as well?
No, Phil loves a cobra.
Right.
I genuinely cannot see the point of them.
Sure.
They are just hood tat. That's, you know, they're only interested. They're only interested when they're annoyed. Really,
They destroy their cage. They poop all over the
Yeah,
place. Then
yeah.
they always want to fight you.
Yeah. And I've got lots of friends that keep them, but I genuinely do not see the appeal to it. It's I've kept the Aspidelaps before, which I thought were absolutely stunning. Very, very quick, but absolutely stunning.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
done with that genus.
Yeah, but
I can't.
but actual cobras, it's like anything. It doesn't float my boat. I would love a rhino viper, but it's not something I personally would keep purely because of the risk involved.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that's and I'll be completely honest with you. My little female, she was captive. She was captive born. She came from Brandon. Oh, my brain wants to say Wheeler, and that's not who it came from. But she was captive born, and she's a monster. She hisses and strikes at anything that comes near her. So she's even especially dangerous for us for that reason.
Do you know what locality the rhino is?
Yeah, he's a Congo.
Cool.
Interesting species to keep.
Yeah, see, the rhinos were a species that since the first time I saw them when I was a kid, I had to work with them someday. They're just way too beautiful, and everything about them they look like dragons. It's like why people love the Squamagera and stuff. But
yeah, I keep those, but I think they're going to be going as well. So
how come you're getting rid of those?
I just want to focus on rattlesnakes.
Crotalus.
Yeah, just Cistrurus, Crotalus, just that. And I think it's difficult to give everything. That sounds really bad. I'm fortunate that I have a building, but I have one building. I don't have it's not, it's not like I've got multiple spaces where I can do different humidities and different temperatures.
Right.
So if I'm keeping the Pituophis and the mountain kings and the Cistrurus, and I want to get the mountain rattlesnakes, Ravus and Cloudberry and Lepidus and that sort of thing, it's easier to just keep all of that sort of thing where the temperatures are going to be reasonably the same and the humidity needs to be reasonably the same, rather than I've got at the minute various bits and bobs that are more Asian species or African species. So they're fantastic, and I think everyone in their life should keep squams at some point because they're just such a nice snake to keep. They're always out. By and large, they're not aggressive. And that's the color.
And they're beautiful.
They're
absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
I will struggle to get rid of my Chlorechis because I think I prefer those to the squams personally, although they're evergreen. But I just think I'm at the time where I want a smaller collection now. That is, I'm really, it's for not fantastic. We can field herp again now because restrictions, and I've missed field herping so much, and I'd rather have more time to field herp. I'll never not have a collection of snakes and various other bits and bobs, but I don't want that to be everything now. I need to, have time to go and do my field herping.
You got to still enjoy yourself.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I've been talking to Phil and that. I've got so many trips already planned and booked up for this year. So many nice species to see. I need to see some vipers in the wild. It's been too long.
Yeah, I would love to see any kind of arboreal viper in the wild would be top of the list for me. I think seeing bush vipers and stuff or eyelash vipers would be amazing.
100%. I was talking to Henry yesterday, and he wants to get some Kasnakovi.
Yeah.
The Vipera Kasnakovi. And he got me, we was chatting away, so I've started looking at books and things. Oh my days, I might have to start getting some European vipers again, but keeping them outside, not keeping them in the building, because
Sure.
I don't think many of the European vipers do well in Vivaria, but outside they seem to do really, really well.
Yeah,
It's cool living in a place you can do that too.
Yeah, you need some European vipers. Your climate's got to be fairly similar.
Yeah.
In Virginia, you could.
Yeah. Here it would be definitely. It's leagues different over here than it was back in Arizona.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you should get some European. There's some stunning European vipers.
Yeah, that would be really cool. It's kind of like you said. Once I have everything in a small room as well right now. So, and I'm working really hard to be someone who's moving out of that old way of keeping and just really upgrading each enclosure for what it is from here. So I don't have much space at the moment, but there is going to be a lot of once we can do a building or get a little bit more space, there's a lot more that I think we want to dip our toes into. I know Allie wants to keep a lot more of that stuff.
That's my next question for you. What's on your list that you don't currently keep, but you're looking to get?
Oh, that's a hard question.
That's one of those. That is a question that needs 10 beers and a long time to answer.
Yeah, really. Yeah. I mean, I can tell you off the top of my head, it's not venomous, but I really do want to work with some Halmahera scrub pythons. That would be something that I'd like to add to some localities we have. And then, oh man, yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, realistically, any species of Boiga that I don't already keep, I'm very interested in keeping. That whole genus I'm fascinated with. Sulfuris, Spilotes sulfuris is one that I would really like to add to working with. Any puffing snakes, really.
Yeah, my friends just got a pair of those. We picked them up in the last show in December. They're angry, man. They are really not people-friendly snakes. They're really angry snakes.
If it wants to be the big dog on campus when I go in there to maintenance, that for whatever reason, I think that's fun to work with.
Yeah, 100%. I don't like I don't want a snake that just sits there, and it's nice to have a little challenge every now and then, let you know that it's in there.
Yeah, I don't want it to fling a movement at me, but if it wants to strike at me and hiss, by all means.
Yeah, 100%. So you keep scrubs at the moment?
Yeah.
What scrubs do you have?
So we're working with some sarong barnecks. I've got a Wagyu island locality barneck stuff, and then Maraukes, southern stuff. Yeah, got some patternless, and then some like standard pattern stuff.
That's cool. I've already got Aru Island.
Ooh, I like the Aru stuff a lot, and the Manicore stuff.
Yeah, that's. I'm afraid that's going to be going as well. That doesn't fit in with a plan anymore. So
the scrubs in general.
Yes, I think they're amazing. They're big snakes. I've got Apodora as well.
Very cool.
So I've got an adult pair of Apodora. They won't be going anywhere. They're hands down my favorite snake. They're just amazing. But yeah, all the bigger stuff, the boys and that will be going, and it's just going to be the rat
on
snakes.
The python note, Phil, do you still keep water pythons?
I still have a pair. Yep.
They getting big?
They're getting big. I mean, they're not as thick as my arm yet, but
sure
they are. I guess they're 2 years old this past July.
Wow.
And I'm hoping maybe it's got to be, I guess, spring of 24. I'm hoping I could probably put them together.
Very cool.
Putting food in them, man. And I was skeptical when I got them about like, oh, they're Queensland or they're not Queensland, whatever. No, they are 100% Queensland looking, and like they're turning that good brown color with the peach and yellow on the stomach. So
yeah, very cool.
I've got a trio of Fog Dam, and they're 5 years old, and I've just put them together for the first time a little while ago.
Oh, excellent.
Fingers crossed for you.
Yeah,
hell yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, we've got some scrubs together right now. Both came in 6 and 7 years ago from Dan, and now they're huge, full-grown, massive snakes. So hopefully, I mean, they've been locking up and doing all their business right in front of us. They're not ashamed of it. So
Nice.
I mean, hopefully something comes of that down the road.
That's very cool.
Testament to good keeping.
Yeah, that's what we like to think. Honestly, I get asked about the Boiga stuff all the time, and how do we breed them, or how do we get them to breed? I don't really have a lot of advice for you. I can tell you that they do enjoy, if a rain comes in or something, like a lot of arboreal snakes, for whatever reason, that stimulates something in them. Pressures don't necessarily have to change, but I just keep them the way they need to be.
Do you have misting systems in your vivs for the Boiga, or do you just hand spray, or don't even spray?
Just hand spray. And to be completely honest with you, it's so all my Boiga have large, like, tub style water dishes, and they all soak in them. They all, I will catch them every now and then, just taking a soak in the water, rather it be going into shed or rehydrating or whatever it is. They all drink from standing water. And then they get sprays a couple times a week. If I'm being honest, they don't seems like they stay off the ground a lot more if I keep their substrate damper. And they end up having little skin issues and stuff if they spend all their time on the ground when it's that damp. So for me, I let them kind of dry out. I give them light mists that kind of just dust the body and raise the humidity a bit for them. But aside from that, they don't have a misting system, and they don't stay on a heavy mist. I don't think it would hurt them to have a mister on them, but I also think that mine have been kind of just chilling without it.
And are they in a low traffic area in terms
Yes.
of?
Yeah. So they're in a room that I'm never in unless I'm maintaining, feeding, something like that.
I think that makes a massive difference. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
with and we've all been there when we were younger, but I think people that are trying to breed or keep, mangroves and something like that in their bedroom when they're in and out like a fiddler's elbow, turning the lights on and off, playing
or just they have a reptile room, but they're always in it.
Yeah.
They hang out in it.
Yeah. I think Boiga thrive on just being left alone.
That's another thing too. I don't handle them. If I want to pull a snake out to interact with the snake, it's a scrub and it's a younger scrub that I'm trying to mellow out, or it's a carpet python or something else that I have.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's not the Boiga.
No, you see people particularly with the mangroves, they're on Instagram every other day taking a different picture of the same snake, and you just think that is, it's not the snake for that. Get yourself a ball python or something if that's what you want to do.
Right. There's a different personality to Boiga. There is an intelligence there that they'll tell you what they need if you know how to look for it, or you're paying attention. And if 100%. if you pay attention and you give them what they need, and then you leave them alone because they're solitary animals, they're really easy to keep. There's not a complexity to keeping them alive. The complexity is not setting them upright in the first place. And then that's where people run into issues. You get the right advice and you set them up the right way, and then you don't generate all your time into taking photos of them in your hand.
Yeah.
Then they're going to acclimate and they're going to settle in, and they're going to be a really, really good snake. But they are shy and they are nocturnal, and a lot of interaction happens during the day. So you're only making things worse for that matter.
Yeah, 100%. So in terms of your larger mangroves and stuff like that, what do you think about people that are free handling them, or what do you think the risk is? I mean, we know they're rear fanged, but do you consider them to be a species with a risk, or do you think that there is no risk for it?
I'm in the middle for, I guess, mixed opinion. I think mangroves specifically, I would just say don't free handle them or really handle them much at all. But if someone were to ask me, can I handle my nigroceps? I'm probably going to tell you absolutely. Just make sure you get to know that animal before you do so, and understand, is it a striker? Does it like to sneaky bite? Is it really tolerant? Can you
Yeah.
They're they're not gonna. It's an animal where if you take it off of you once it bites you and you're relatively quick about it, you should have no reaction at all. But there are those certain circumstances where people can be really reactive, and I've been chomped and let them chew. So if you're going to keep Boiga, I think that one important thing to say is do plan to take a bite. They probably are going to bite you unless you keep them like they're 100% venomous and you never touch them. But I don't think that that's the way that you should keep them. So that's where I say that they may not be made for everybody. If you are going to keep them, I think you should be aware that you're in a kitchen that might burn you if you're going to play with the fire that's in it. And you should know what your reactiveness is. So if that means that have someone home with you and let one of your feistier ones like get you one of those times that it's sitting there striking at you. And I'm not saying sit there and let it chew on you and do everything that it can, but take a quick bite, pull it off, or if it doesn't even hang on, take that quick bite and just see how your skin reacts. See how you feel on a comfort level with that potentially happening, because there is the possibility that it can. And I think that the more that you work with some of this stuff, you can free handle it if the individual is right for it. But if the animal's not, then I mean, my big Melanota, I will free handle if I need to. He's really, really big and heavy, so a hook is pretty hard on him. But the other thing is like he's pretty mellow for a Melanota, but I don't trust him. He's not a snake that I let his head rest on my arm, because he is a snake that I know will sneak bite me if I let that happen. I also know that he's very motion motivated. So, if I have him out and someone moves in front of him, he's going to strike at them. So that animal I just interact with differently than I would with, like, say, my big Cynodon, who, like you said, you'd essentially have to step on them for them to even like puff up at you at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have a mixed response on that. They're not a snake for everybody. They can be potentially dangerous. You should treat them as if they're 100% venomous until you are comfortable or properly educated or have that kind of experience.
Since we're on the topic of it, going back to babies and getting babies feeding.
Yes.
One thing I've noticed recently is a lot more breeders that are dealing with troublesome colubrid neonates. They're feeding them in their hand. And I guess the thought process initially was, well, I'm already holding the animal by the head to assist feed it. I might as well continue this. And even though I'm using my hand as a platform and I'm still using hemostats or tweezers to feed the prey item, and at the same time, it's becoming tolerant of the heat of my hand and becoming tolerant of being, touched with fingers and such.
Building trust.
Trust, right. Or I mean, breaking them like a horse, however you want to look at it. Mm-hmm. Do you do that, or have you done that with like the Nigriceps and the Cynodon stuff and the Cyania? Absolutely.
I think that if they don't take right off the tongs, your best bet's going to be to assist them. You have to get very lucky to just leave it overnight and have it flip a switch all of a sudden and decide to eat it. So, and I'm not one to skip meals or wait out something like a Boiga, because their metabolism's so fast to begin with that they're going through a lot of body nutrients as it is in that growing process. I mean, a lot happens in the first 3 months of a snake being born growth wise. So it's a really critical time to actually get meals down. They are designed to eat a slightly bigger meal, but if they're being assist fed, I try to keep them in my hand if that's what's going to be the least stressful thing for them. So if I can get them set back into like an enclosure where they have their privacy and they're not so stressed to where if I step back, they're going to spit it out, I think setting them back is, probably the least stressful thing for them. They can get the meal down. They can go into a place to hide.
Or if anything, let them go off your hand on your own. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's basically what I do. I let them get the food. And then once they take a couple chomps on it, I kind of like set them over the lip. And then a lot of the time they'll just carry off the meal. But there are tricks with force feeding too, where I've noticed if you run into something that doesn't want to take the meal all the way down, you can kind of cartwheel with your hand. You kind of let them move forward while that food kind of hangs out of their mouth and kind of make them think like they're just running away with it.
Yeah.
And then at a point they'll kind of, stop and take it down. But they do seem like an animal that wants to eat in the tree. Like there's some kind of safety net for them being up somewhere while they're eating that food. So if you do have something like a boiga, for example, like in your hands, or an enclosure with a nice branch up top you can get them to, that's my best experience with feeding them.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's kind of what I thought you were going to say. And I got baby telescopus, and I tried normal feeding. I knew it wasn't going to work, but I figured, let me just try it. I tried live, just left there for them. And then I tried the hand thing, because everyone who does Crebos and they do Pusillinotus and whatever else, they do this hand thing. And I'm like, man, you know what? It's such a small baby. It's not overly aggressive. These ones are not striking. All they want to do is run away. I said, let me try and do it with my hands. And I tried to do, like you said, like that treadmilling, just like keep them going. And they were terrified. I said, this is not going to work. And that's when I went to ulterior scenting practices. And now I got them. They'll eat damn near anything I put in front of them. But
sure, yeah.
I thought it was interesting with the Egyptian telescopus. They did not want anything to do with the human hand or striking or rearing up or anything. It was just run. So
sure.
I figured I'd ask, since we're on the topic of all the Boiga baby stuff,
Yeah, and I mean, still, it can be up to like individuals. Both these little gems behind me, they'll both take off the tongs already. The other one won't even take an assist. Like, it has to be force fed. I got to get the food all the way down to the back of the throat, and then we'll toothpaste it down into the belly, put them away, and leave them alone. But yeah, I mean, I couldn't cartwheel with that animal if I tried, but the other two would probably be no problem. So I guess sometimes it could, again, just be down to like the stress level in the individual. Yeah.
Cool. Very cool.
The Pusillinotus is like the hardest thing in my whole collection to feed, and it eats. And it was produced by Jason Hood, and I bought it, eating on its own, and it does eat on its own, but it only eats off of a tease. And the problem is that it has to be teased for like 20 minutes before it decides to actually take it.
Oh yeah. I've watched Billy Hunt do his Pusillinotus, that again produced by Jason Hood. And
yeah,
dude, it's crazy. He has the little wire wheelie cart that we all have, and he'll put the container there. He'll open the lid. The thing S's up at him because it knows the food's coming, and he'll just tease it and tease it and tease it. And the thing is doing backflips and somersaults and
mouth gaped and repeated strikes,
tail flailing, tail whipping, and then finally it'll bite. Billy just stands there motionless, releases
and it'll start to chew,
and it just starts to eat it. And it's like,
yeah. Wow. And when they do decide they're going to eat it, they inhale it.
Oh yeah,
they eat it as fast as they can.
Yep, crazy. Right?
Yeah, it's so interesting.
Awesome species.
They're beautiful too.
Have you kept Langarhar before?
I'm sorry. What? Did you say Blanding?
Langarhar.
No, I haven't.
Okay, I think you'd really like them. I think you'd really like those.
He totally would.
I can't say that I've ever even seen those.
Have you the Madagascar leaf nose snakes?
Is that the scientific on them?
Yeah.
They're kind of like the rhino viper with the big, it's like flat though. Yeah, those are neat.
They are. I love them. Absolutely love them. They, again, they're sexually dimorphic. The males have one shaped nose. The female, they've just got like a long nose, kind of like a Baron's racer.
Yeah.
Whereas the female's got like a flattened leaf of a nose.
Yeah, it looks like a rigid leaf.
Yeah, 100% lizard feeders only.
Okay.
Although mine, I do. If I can't get lizards, I will assist feed with chick legs. It's kind of the same as a lizard once it's digested. There's no feathers on it. It's the same sort of. But I think they're fantastic species. I think you'd really, really like them.
That's really cool. I actually had never really. I've never really thought about actually keeping them, but I am familiar with those, and that is a really, really neat snake. Chryslocalia would be another one too.
Yeah. If you can get the Langarhars, they come up every so often when they do an import. and they're not expensive. They're really worth it. They need a really well planted tank. They need to feel secure. They're very Boiga like in everything, and it's another one. Just leave it alone and just observe it.
Sure.
But fabulous! If you watch them hunting lizards, you put some live lizards in there or something like that. It's incredible.
They hunt like a vine snake, kind of.
Yeah,
real precise.
Yeah, it's amazing. They're
cool.
like little archers with their nose, and they're bang on it. Absolutely ferocious.
I got to work with some Stenophis last year. You're familiar with those? That's a very strange, like Madagascar colubrid.
Oh,
yeah,
those are pretty neat. We had Arctofasciata.
I don't know.
I don't remember what species they were.
I don't know what's happening with Madagascar. I don't know whether we're going to get any more exports from Madagascar or not. But there's a lot of things there that I still need to. I want some Paraodura, the Mazobe or Mazabe, depending on how you want to say it.
It's one of those places we just keep losing stuff from.
Yeah,
sad.
Well, we shall see. Hopefully, we'll get some more imports. So much stuff I want to keep at the minute.
Yeah, fingers crossed for you. That's if I were to pick something that I would like to add that's not arboreal, I've always been a big fan of like all the Leoheterodon stuff. So like, the Madagascars, the giant Madagascars would be really cool. But I like the blondes and the speckleds and all those.
Yeah, in the past I've kept all of those, and they are
cool
ferocious.
Snakes.
Very cool, very interesting.
Make a mess like a Drymarchon does, but they're a cool snake.
Yeah, you clean the Viv so it's immaculate. 2 minutes later, it looks like someone's been wallpapering in there. There's just marks all over it. It's just horrendous.
It's almost like you're keeping cobras.
Yeah, right.
I know a guy who got hit by a blonde hog, and that was the funkiest reaction ever. He swelled up to like his shoulder. And he had weird blood clotting at the bite site, and he got like this almost like razor burn all over his hands and his forearm and stuff,
like red bumps.
Yeah. And he basically said, "Oh, it's so painful," and I think he was just exaggerating all the pain, but
sure,
because the next day he was perfectly fine.
Right.
Very, very interesting seeing a blonde hog go ferocious like that, and then at the same time a very, very shocking reaction.
Dude, that's you know what, I didn't tell the whole story earlier when you asked, but on the note of like the Boiga and the free handling and stuff, and that potency and just difference in keeper reactions, and why you should probably know just how you're going to be able to handle a bite, is we had 2 different clutches, these little baby Nigroceps, where one had chewed on me and then one from the next clutch had chewed on Allie. And we both, we let them chew a little bit, realistically, just because we wanted to further understand like how potent a baby could be, or, basically what you would need to have happen for it to become dangerous. If someone's going to buy baby Nigroceps from me, I'd like to have a little bit more knowledge on that. So we took the chews, and I had zero reaction whatsoever. I mean, you couldn't see where it bit me after I washed my hands an hour later. And then there was Allie, who she took like the exact same bite, and an hour later she was at school and her hand was swelled like a balloon. And and the next day she actually had bruising all the way up her forearm into her bicep, like headed to her armpit, and it looked like bruise with razor burn, and her whole arm was sore. She said she could feel it in her shoulder, and her fingers stayed swollen with like almost like what seemed like scar tissue for like 2 or 3 weeks, and she had like limited mobility in it. So yeah, it's weird. Like you can be really weird. Reactive or not at all.
Yeah.
And she doesn't have any allergies.
That's one of the reasons that I try really hard not to take bites from rear fang stuff. Is I don't want to start building up to the stage where it would give me an allergy if I get bitten by something more serious.
Yeah, that's very fair. I would hate for that to happen as well.
Yeah, I mean, touch wood. The only thing that was painful that I got bitten with was the vine snake, and that was incredibly painful.
And they got some teeth on them though. They have very
Yeah.
interesting teeth on a vine snake.
They have, but you know, it's something that's in every pet store for not much money, unfortunately, because they come in, and I didn't even consider that it would be a painful bite, but it was, yeah, really, really painful.
And you're talking about Prasina, not Oxybellus, right?
Yeah, Prasina. Yeah.
Oh,
Prasina,
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I took a bite in the thumb when I was assist feeding, and yeah, incredibly painful. There was like an absolute jolt, like you'd been stung by a wasp or something like that.
Really?
Interesting.
And then after that, you know, swelling of the thumb, which that only lasted for about, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours. But lack of feeling, I've still not got 100% feeling at the bite site. It's just like, it's really weird.
No
Wow.
kidding.
And yeah, and
Wow.
you're talking a snake that's what, 3 foot long and tiny little head and
No bigger than your shoelace.
100%. Yeah.
That's
So,
insane.
yeah.
Wow.
So that's, I'm just careful with everything now.
Yeah, no, for good reason. And I don't want anyone who's listening, I don't want to come across like I try to let everything like bite me or anything at all for that matter. What I'm I guess saying is if I take a bite and it is a particular animal that I'm curious to further, you know, that bite with or want to do something with, then I may, as a keeper myself and putting my own safety, you know, at risk. I'm just trying to further understand something and I may like allow it to go a little further than it should, but by no means do I try to take bites. I try to do everything safely. I try to use precautions. I try to avoid taking bites. Do try to treat them like they are dangerous animals because they can be dangerous animals. And the only thing that's going to hurt the existence of them in this hobby is people being silly with them and doing things to make them look like monsters that they're not.
Right.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, well put, man. Well put.
That's very cool.
Well, Matt, you have a fantastic YouTube channel. You want to give us a little bit about that, and then maybe tell people where they can find you.
Fantastic is a very generous word for my YouTube
I like
channel.
it. I have fun with it.
But I do appreciate that. I appreciate you guys, and it is Arboreal Obscurities. I mean, I don't know. I'm a terrible speller, so look up how to spell Arboreal Obscurities if you don't know how to. If you spell it right, you'll find it. It's really just a small YouTube channel where we just make Boiga content. We try to do different videos on different species and try to actually pull the animal out each episode, give you a close-up look, try to teach you a little bit more about things you may not have known about or just husbandry skills and ways to better the existence of these animals in captivity and in the hobby. And it's a cool little page. It's very lighthearted. The energy's usually pretty mellow. I try to interact with everybody in the comments and respond to everybody. So if you have questions, that's a place that you can ask me essentially whatever you'd like to know in regards to Scrubs or Boiga. And it's an overall good little time. I don't post weekly, and so apologies in advance if you go to that channel expecting like the weekly uploads or the daily uploads. It's kind of an every once in a while video channel, but it's really just to highlight and try to talk a little bit more about this obscure stuff that people have questions about.
I love it, man. And you got Instagram too, right?
I do. The Instagram is arboreal.obscurities. So if you find me on Instagram, you can find me on YouTube or vice versa. And then there's like a link in the Instagram to the YouTube and our little merch shop and other things that we do on the side.
Awesome, man. Awesome.
That's
Nipper,
very
is there
cool.
anything else?
No, just huge thanks for spending the time with us, letting us, chat about your collection. I cannot wait. As soon as we're off here, I'm going to go and get some eggs and feed some of my Boiga with that, because that sounds fascinating. As usual, you can get me on Instagram at nipperreed, or you can get me at herptwitcher.com. If you want to chat about anything, I'd be more than happy to chat. People, if you're gonna, oh my God, someone's gonna get arrested. Is it you, Phil?
It's definitely not me.
You heard that? That's a siren. That's outside my window.
Someone's gonna get arrested. Please follow me on Instagram because I really want to get my numbers up. So that would be very cool.
Yeah. And my name is Phil, and I'm at knobtails.ig, as well as the Herpetoculture Network and the Herpetoculture World. You can also find us on a lot of the MPR, the Morelia Python Network stuff. So go check out Nipper, myself, and Matt. Thanks again, brother. It was a hell of a fun time.
Hey, thank you guys for having me, man. I had a blast today.
All right, awesome. We will catch you guys next time. Thanks for listening.
Cheers.
Peace.